Australia's Minister for the Pacific has used a visit to Solomon Islands in the middle of the federal election campaign to, respectfully, urge the country's Prime Minister not to sign a controversial security deal with China. Key points. Zed Seselja said Australia remained committed to supporting the Solomon Islands to meet its security needs. A leaked draft of the deal indicated Beijing would be allowed to station Navy ships and defence personnel in the Pacific nation. Scott Morrison denied his government had dropped the ball on the Solomon Islands relationship. Senator Zed Seselja travelled to Honiara, with Labor's support during the caretaker period, to directly press the government's concerns over an agreement that could allow a Chinese military presence close to Australia. In a statement after his meeting with Prime Minister Ceseria, Senator Seselja said Australia remained committed to supporting Solomon Islands to meet its security needs swiftly, transparently, and with full respect for its sovereignty. Senator Seselja said Australia had been a strong partner to Solomon Islands for many years, supporting its security needs through the recent Solomon's International Assistance Force, and earlier, through the Regional Assistance Mission to Solomon Islands. We have asked Solomon Islands, respectfully, to consider not signing the agreement and to consult the Pacific family in the spirit of regional openness and transparency, consistent with our region's security frameworks, Senator Seselja said. Speaking to the ABC after his meeting, Senator Seselja added that it was a frank discussion with Mr. Ceseria. "We've had a dialogue," he said. "We expressed our view and our concern. We maintain that Australia can fill the security needs of Solomon Islands and the region. Working together, we can make sure that all of the security needs of the Solomon Islands are taken care of." Loading. An overseas trip by a minister during an elections caretaker period is considered unusual and highlights the growing anxiety in Australia over the soon-to-be-signed deal between China and Solomon Islands. Under a leaked draft of the document, Beijing could be allowed to station Navy ships and defence personnel to protect billions of dollars in Chinese infrastructure investment in the developing country. Earlier on Wednesday, Prime Minister Scott Morrison dismissed suggestions that his government had dropped the ball on its relationship with Solomon Islands after a leaked draft of the Security Pact took Australia by surprise. Mr. Morrison insisted Australia continued to work closely with Honiara, despite the Australian government currently operating in caretaker mode during the election campaign. "We will continue to work through these sensitive issues as a Pacific Islands family," Mr. Morrison said. The suggestion that Australia should be heavy-handed on these matters is wrong-headed and completely misunderstands how these matters should be handled. Loading. Security deal beneficial for Pacific region. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian said on Wednesday the security cooperation between China and Solomon Islands would complement existing agreements and be beneficial for both Solomon Islands and the South Pacific region. The agreement is beneficial to social stability and lasting security of Solomon Islands and conducive to promoting peace, stability, and development of Solomon Islands and the South Pacific region, Mr. Zhao said. Relevant countries should view this in an objective and reasonable light, and respect the sovereignty and independent choice of China and Solomon Islands. Instead of stoking confrontation and creating division among the Pacific Island countries and the region, they should do more things that is good for regional peace, stability, and development. Visiting U.S. Marines boss warns geography matters. The visiting commandant of the U.S. Marine Corps, David Berger, has highlighted the geographic importance of Solomon Islands, while warning the West is failing to block China's gradual advances across the Indo-Pacific. "You could argue that the approaches that we've taken in the last 10 years are not working out here," General Berger said in an appearance at the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. "They are moving forward. They are not picking a fight. They are achieving their objectives. We're not successfully deterring it because what some people call grey zone, or however you want to call it, we haven't figured out quite how to stop that." Loading. General Berger also highlighted the modern-day strategic importance of Solomon Islands, pointing to its significance during the pivotal World War II Battle of Guadalcanal. Where the Solomon Islands are, matters, he said. It did then. It does now. The Solomon Islands, their location matters. It's clearly a point of contention and competition. Asked whether Australia had failed, diplomatically, to stop the proposed Chinese security deal, General Berger responded, "It's not for me to judge pass or fail. It does highlight the strategic location of places in the Pacific for sure," he said. Loading.